Hello, everyone. I'm Simon Preston, and welcome back to Reggae Boys Commentary. Thank you so much for tuning in to another video on this channel. As you can see, we have a very, very special guest with us today, and it's none other than Reggae Girlz midfielder Chinyelu, who is celebrating 10 years as a national player. In 2012, she made her debut with the U20s in Panama. Time flies, doesn't it, Chinny? Thanks for being here.
Time really flies. I honestly didn't even put those numbers together. So I appreciate you, I guess, commemorating that. I should treat myself to something, I guess, sometime soon.
Exactly. Do you remember that trip over to Panama? I think Marlo was there, Bunny as well. Do you remember that journey as well?
Yeah, how could I forget? That was my very first time in the program. It was my last time also playing with U20, so I kind of came in, you know, I think I was 19 or maybe going on 19. So by the time my next birthday, then I was, too old for the U20s. But it definitely was the experience that kept me wanting to come back to the program, and it gave me a taste of what our potential could be. So yeah.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Before all of that, journey came together, just wanted to touch on your background a bit. Of course, a lot of Jamaicans will know your father, Dr. Asher, who has been a legend in the country in terms of high school sports and what he did. And of course, your mother's side, Cameroonian. Would you say growing up that you got more of a Jamaican culture, or was it like a mixture of both growing up?
Mm, I think it's a pretty good mixture of both. I mean, in every category, I don't know, like my parents kind of met in the middle on a lot of it. I mean, my mom pretty much mastered all Caribbean dishes, and so I got the pleasure of having a West African and Jamaican cuisine, which which I miss right now, especially here in Sweden. But no, I think everything, once I started with football when I was around 9, and I kind of like barged my way into that, and I don't know, it captivated me at a young age, and I just was like, okay, I'm here, and I'm gonna come train with my older brother and my dad and all that. So once I kind of was brought into that, I guess that crew, we made our little mini crew of 3 in the house. That was when I really started to connect with my Jamaican background like the most. I mean, my dad, of course, I mean he's an OG. I mean, he definitely made sure that we knew all the reggae artists. We got our Luciano, we got our Dennis Brown, we got all these things. You would bring those like mixtape discs from our like trips to Jamaica. We would go there much more frequently when we were younger, and make sure that we understood all the patois and all that. So definitely, got that like nourishing cultural education from my parents on both sides. But once I started to like play, and there's a lot of Jamaicans, a lot of Caribbeans in the area that I'm from, in DC area, like that's when I was like, okay, I started to connect more, and in ways that like you can't teach. So I'm really grateful for that community back at home.
Okay, nice. Is it Maryland
Yeah.
that you grew up in? Maryland, the state?
Yeah, Maryland. Yeah, but we call it the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia, because you
Yeah.
can be from Virginia and go. I went to high school in DC and
Right.
Maryland at some point. So um, yeah, we all got it there.
Yeah, because there's a large Jamaican community like in Frederick and near Urbana High School area. So yeah, Jamaicans are everywhere, as you know, all over the
As
place.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So you spoke
Mhm.
about, taking up football at age 9. Is there any other sport that you gravitated towards at that age, elementary or middle school?
Yeah, so I was really into track, and I thought that my Jamaican side was going to make me a sprinter, and I just knew when I had my first race in the 100-meter dash that that was going to be my big break. But then I came like last, and my coach was like, okay, we're going to put you in distance from now on. But so I might be more of my West African genes. But yeah, I got really really competitive with track, kind of right around that time. My older sister was doing it, and monkey see monkey do. I wanted to be like my older siblings all the time. So I started to get into it, and discover that I had legs for it. and it took my attention away from football. Like, I guess at the competitive level, I always had like the pickup games and playing with my dad and the older Jamaican guys. But yeah, it definitely started to go head to head with what I wanted to do in college. So
Okay.
yeah.
So, what age would you say you were just completely committed to just football? Was it your late teens?
Oh my gosh. And it's crazy because I don't recommend, the path that I took, but I'm really grateful for my parents for giving me space, because that means when I came back to football, like that was me. Like, I feel like a lot of people, they kind of stick to things, and maybe they do it for the wrong reasons, or they kind of lose the passion along the way and it just becomes routine. But I kind of juggled back and forth between track and football, and it was maybe around, it was like junior year of high school, which in the States is super late to try to get, scholarship and commitments to a good university and a good program. But, God got me somehow. And so I don't know, how old was I? Maybe around, I think I was like 17 when I signed when I like committed and like signed to go to Purdue.
Mhm.
So that was very late in the game, but it was meant to be. So
Okay. And your time at Purdue and also Louisville as well, how would you say
yeah.
those experiences helped you to, prepare for life as a professional athlete?
Yeah. I think I was I was really naive going into school. Um, and I don't blame anyone, maybe that's just how it is, but especially with my parents who, they're not American. They don't know much about, women's football and school. I mean, my dad kind of caught up as we went along, but I I'm trying to think if I even ever went to one college level women's game like before I went there. And so I just kind of had these like ideas of like, okay, like this is next level. I'm playing against like some great people. I probably won't play that much my freshman year, but that's fine. I'm gonna learn so much. And so honestly, from day one, I was learning about like what it means to be a professional athlete. In this sport, I think I developed some really good habits with thanks to my like track stint, and how to be disciplined and just kind of have that like killer attitude and that self-motivated attitude. But um, I definitely learned a lot at Purdue about, what it means to, be a top athlete and compete. But also like I learned that I was a great player. Like, that's something that you have, and you can help its like expression and how it like manifests. But I was really I surprised myself like my first year of school, because I didn't think I was going to play, and boom, I started playing. I was like, oh, I mean, I thought I was good, but like now my coach thinks I'm good enough to like, oh, now I'm getting minutes, oh, now I'm starting, okay, now it's like I definitely started to define myself as a player, and really understand like my own potential, which was awesome. And I had a really good, group of girls on that team to buffer that. So yeah.
And in terms of the position that you play, have you always been a midfielder, or in college you played in multiple
No. Yeah. So I was. Let me see. When Purdue recruited me, I was playing midfield. Um, but honestly, I mean, like if we start back from when I was 9, I've always been a very heavy left footer, left-handed, left footer, lefty, period. So I started as an outside back, because
areas.
I would always, be helping out my brother in his training, and he would like work. He's like also a lefty, but like dribbler, like do all that stuff. So I would be like his human cone. So I learned like those reflexes first. So okay, boom, left back, and then I started, to advance more training with my dad, and started to develop those technical skills. And I became like a winger, still on the left side. And then just kept that like development going, and I gravitated towards the middle, which I love because I love being part of what's going on. um, but when Purdue recruited me, I was a left forward, a winger or wide forward. And I had so much fun because one, I didn't think I was going to play. Two, I was a freshman, so minimal uh, weight of responsibility almost. I'm like, okay, like no one expects anything from me. Like I didn't know anyone when I got here. They don't know me. I'm just here to learn. That like growth mentality, and I'm just gonna have fun. And I did that, and I think I performed pretty well. And then right at that same time, we had our starting midfielder. Wow, this memory lane is fun. I haven't spoken about these in a while, but we had our starting midfielder who was a baller, Lolo. She was a senior and left, and so I was like brought into that role. I didn't even know I was gonna, play in that center part, but I started there and I stayed there for the rest of school. And then that's the position where I was recruited for when I transferred to Louisville. And yeah, but since then, I mean, I still make plenty of appearances on the left side, so I like to keep that as an option anytime. So
Okay, we'll see what the future brings there.
we'll see. Yeah.
But I've always been curious though, Chinny, in terms of your style of play, because I mean, every time you're on the ball, even when you're playing at the stadium against Bermuda the other day, you could hear the fans when you're on the ball and you make a forward pass, people shouting "ball" or "ball." You know what I mean? So in terms
Yeah.
of how you play, how you envision the game, is it something that you learned from your dad through college, a player that you look to, your particular style of play,
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think I have to say I learned that from my dad. And I mean, I've never watched him play when in his prime. He still plays now. And I know he was like a defender in college when he was playing at Howard. So, but I think, I don't know. I think, I love like, how do I say this? Like, I just love like beautiful, like football, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And I love like the flair. Like, I don't know. I feel like I have a very like loving relationship with this game, and I love how it looks. So if I can help um create that on the field like that, I love that for myself selfishly, but if I can do it in a way that also advances the team, that's even better. But also I know those are like the moments where that's like the most unpredictable way to play the game. And I like to be unpredictable, and I love deception and like keeping my opponents on their toes. Like I feel like the game right now has developed, it's so scientific. It's like, okay, how do we combat these trends? And not to knock it, like you need that, but I feel like regardless, and this is something that my dad and I talk about a lot, so this comes from him, but like regardless of where the game is right now, whether it's like faster, slower, more structured, whatever, there's always room for a creative player because they like defy the logic and defy the trends. Like you can't really coach against that because you don't know. So that's something that I try to like keep in my bag. And even like last year I didn't play as much on my club, but so as I'm like starting to get into my groove, that's something I'm trying to tap into a little bit more. So I appreciate the moments that people see that because
Yeah,
we're working on it.
real
Yeah.
students of the game. Yeah, I understand what you mean by you say beautiful football. So long may that continue. You can play another 10 years if you want to, or
We'll
less. It's up
see.
to
My body feels pretty good, so we'll see what happens.
you. And tell me about that experience going over to Kazakhstan. When people finish college, they end up playing in the States or Canada, but you went way over there.
I sure did. I took a long flight, but yeah, I mean, I'm gonna circle back to how like that naivete, I guess, that's still. I mean, I didn't. No one told me to like enter the draft, or like my college wasn't really involved in my pro, transition, which whatever, like, no judgment or nothing wrong with that, but I didn't even like think about that as an option. But I'm a very like open person. I'm open to opportunities, experiences. Nothing is too intimidating for me. So a friend slash coach was given, a task, or someone needed help finding a midfielder, and I fit that profile. And it was for a Champions League team. they were based in Kazakhstan. But I knew, I mean, not all my time was based there since we were traveling and playing teams for the tournament. But I was like, oh, this is my first pro stint. Like, okay, it's around between 3 to 6 months, depending on how we do, and it's Champions League. Like, why not start there and see what the level is? We played Verona, PSG. Played against some extremely top players, and it was amazing to like be on that same field and be like, okay, like I got this too, like So that set a good tone for me, I think.
Yeah, and to this day, they haven't passed a round of 16, which shows the impact that you had on the team. What an incredible run it was.
We had a good team, but yeah, I hope they do.
Yeah, I mean, even though the stint was short, I mean, you still hold the record for the youngest Jamaican to play in the Champions League at 22. So that's something you can have on your back.
That is true. Thank you. Never thought about it that way.
Yeah, incredible journey along the way, and of course, you took another chapter heading to South America and then back to the States as well. What was that like in Colombia as well?
My gosh, I feel like I still have a piece of my heart in Colombia. That was such an incredible year that also just kind of happened. I think that's a pattern for me. But it was so good. I think it's so far, I think it's my favorite pro experience in so far, I would have to say. And yeah, because that was the first, it was like they had a league, but I think that was kind of like what Japan just did recently. They kind of like revamped and really legitimized it. And they had a lot of money into it that year. So I don't know how the league has been. I haven't followed it as much, but my team was stacked. We had ballers, like a bunch of girls from the Colombian national team, some from Costa Rica. Our goalkeeper, Kimmy Forbes, she's from Trinidad. And the club had contacted my teammate from Louisville, University of Louisville, and she asked if I wanted to go with her, and I was like, "Claro que sí, absolutely." And it was amazing. Just the culture, the football culture there was right down my alley. The trainings were so good, high level, and just very intelligent, but like all possession based, which are things that I love. And we shared the facilities with the men.
Wow.
Played in the men's stadium. We had incredible amounts of fans. I think we broke the record that year. Since been broken, but that's a good thing because we're trying to keep that following up for women's football. But I mean, yeah, I would go back. If sometime in the future, yeah, I loved it there.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
After your time in Europe, okay.
I loved it there. Maybe more of a supporter than a player. I don't know, or maybe later down in my career. But I had a really good time there as a person and as a player. They really took care of me. So.
Okay. And switching on the national team perspective for a bit, a lot of girls that I've spoken to, they said it was such a hassle for them to get a Jamaican passport. I'm guessing it wasn't such an ordeal for you, I guess, with your dad involved.
No, it wasn't. Honestly, I don't even remember the process. That's how I know that it was that easy. But it was during my, when I was with the U20s, and I think it was much easier at that time. But I think my stuff was already in the works anyways, just with my family. So it went. I feel bad for some of the players now. I'm like, dang, too bad, but very easy.
Yeah. Okay. And your national team debut, 2015, heading over to the Dominican Republic. Do you remember that experience as well?
Mm-hmm. This was the Olympic qualifiers, wasn't it?
Yeah. And there were a couple of experienced players that you were in the squad with, Tashana Vincent and company. So.
Yeah, that was a tournament that I think I tried to block a little bit from my memory because we had a very unfortunate end when we played against Trinidad. But
and Guyana.
Yeah, that was a little bit sad. I think I was roommates with Christine Exeter, And I'm not sure if we exchanged one word that
What?
night in the room. Yeah, we were just upset, those games where it's like, wow, that shouldn't have happened, and but it did, and
Yeah.
it's just how football goes. But no, I mean, yeah, that was my debut. That's where it all started, and it made me want to come back for sure. Yeah, and also playing with a bunch of those girls, definitely reggae girl legends, that I think that was my last time playing with a lot of them. So that was nice to kind of solidify that, and ball with them. Mhm.
I mean, I guess you could say one glimmer of positivity from that trip, you scoring for Jamaica your first goal against Dominica. Remember
Yeah,
that goal at least?
I actually do. Yeah,
Okay,
I do.
great.
So that was, yeah, yeah.
Okay, good. At least you have that memory in your
Yes, I
brain. Yeah.
do.
And then 3 years later in Texas, the CONCACAF Championship, did you feel like, yeah, it was a young squad, but you just felt like something was building here for that
Yeah.
tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I think our adversity that year brought all of us together. Um, and we had, I think, I think I can just say this honestly, that overall our quality right now on our roster was better than that team. Because all of us were most of us were still in school or just kind of like brought together and all right, let's go qualify for the World Cup. But I think we immediately just like understood the assignment and just like tapped into each other. And that like that our bond or that like unity that we had was really strong. So I think that allowed us to just grind through and achieve our objective. So very
Yeah.
grateful for that bunch, all of them.
And you could say there was a fair bit of time together with the earlier round of the qualifiers, the CAC game. So there was time together where you guys could gel, get to know each other better, and flourish as a team.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, that's family. Like I think when I was younger, and even like sometimes I know you mentioned like about my dad, like he would host like mini camps with some of the high schools or just kind of have like trips, like football trips, and he would bring me with him, and I would train with the boys and do all that. But if the reggae girls were in camp, I think a couple times I would just kind of hop in with them up at Mona. I mean, up at UE, and I think that was like me being young and being like a little bit outsider effect. I think that was like the culture back then. But I would just kind of look at the girls there. I'm like, dang, like they're having so much, or they really love being here, or they really love like being with each other, And I was like, wasn't judging it, but I was just like observing that, that even when I was in camp, like in the DR, like you mentioned, like I kind of like felt that with some of the older girls. And like now that I'm older, I'm like, wow, now I understand why they come to these camps, and you can just like feel that love that they're coming back to, because it's such a how do I say, it's such a rarity to have the type of environment that we have in our camps. Like Black women, first of all, a whole squad of us, football, culture, like community, sisterhood. Like these are things like if you're away from home, if you're playing overseas or something, like that's like, besides from the business that we have, which is normally to qualify, because we don't have too many camps that aren't around like a tournament, but there's like a part of like a refuge that's there. So that was like the qualifiers in 2018. That was like the first time I started to really get that. And now I look forward to it every time we have camp. So
Yeah. Wow. That's quite compelling. Wow. And in terms of that game against Panama, what was going through your mind the day of that game, knowing
Mm.
win or we head to the playoffs? Was it like a calm mood in the camp, or you one of those person that listen to music before the games, or you just want to be quiet?
I'm calm. I knew we were going to win. I knew we had to win, but I really believed that we were going to win. And that's not to, no shade to Panama or anything, because they had a really good performance that tournament. But I felt that we were going to win. I prefer to be calm. Kind of have like, some chill music going. But then, Yasmin or Denden or someone will get on the ones and twos in the locker room, and then I'll take my headphones out and kind of like, tune in that way. But yeah, I felt very confident that day.
But after Dom scored that penalty, I'm sure you guys didn't sleep that night.
No, not at all. Definitely not at all. That was, man, that was crazy. That was like, I don't even like watching PKs that much. Like I have my heartbeat just feels like I just ran 11 miles or something. But that was still gives me chills thinking about it.
Imagine if you had to take one.
I know, but I've been actually practicing my PKs a lot lately, so
okay.
I have been imagining if I have to take one. I'm like, let me make sure I'm ready for it.
Yeah. When it eventually comes.
Mm-hmm.
And so coming to Jamaica now, the celebration, touring the city, the government appreciation, what was all of that like? Overwhelming, or you liked the attention in a sense?
I will say that was kind of overwhelming. But I think that's mostly because our schedule was just jam packed. I mean, I don't know how we all made it through to the end of that week. But it was so nice to see everyone like show us love. That felt so good. And not in a ego way, but like we deserve that. Like that was honestly the first time that we really felt we could like feel and see that like, okay, we got love back at home. So that was nice, definitely.
And then the experience now in France, coming on against Brazil, a moment you've always worked for, playing on the highest stage.
I know. Those are my favorite stages to play on. Like I love playing against the best. That really like excites me and motivates me. But yeah, and I was a little bit sad too because I'm not normally in one of like the injured players. I think I try to pride myself on, making sure my body is ready to go all the time. But I was coming back from something that I picked up back in Norway. And so I didn't, I was a little bit sad. I wasn't feeling 100%. But I mean, I love that moment. Like, I think I only came on for maybe like 20 minutes, but it was important for me to like set the tone. Cause I think regardless, you're playing against the best. We had a pretty difficult group on paper, but when you step on the field, it's everyone's game. But sometimes it still takes like stepping on and be like, all right, like I got this, we're good. And I think like my first couple like touches were a little bit shaky, and I was like, oh, okay, like relax, we got this. Then I started getting to my rhythm, and I felt like that gave me really good momentum to go into that next game, because I feel like Italy, I had a good game. And I felt like, okay, like we got our first game jitters, we're in the World Cup, I have my family here, I know who I am, like let's go play. And I was playing on the wing that game too. So yeah, I mean the score lines are not the best, but personally I felt like I wasn't so shabby.
Yeah, your performances certainly showed the quality that you do have, and we have 2023 to look forward to, so we can.
Oh, we do. We need to rewrite our story a little bit.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And what was it like, being back in camp last month and starting this journey all again and reunited with all the girls that you met back in 2019?
Yeah,
It
was good. I think it's hard to. I think at first I tried to kind of compare to how we were like that same moment, but years ago, and then by the end of the camp, I was like, we have a whole different set of variables, you know? Like it's not just, you know, grind, and, you know, underdog. Like it's none of that. Like we're the top dogs right now in the Caribbean. And like we are having to enter this in a way like a lot of other countries have followed our formula and, you know, have been investing more time into their program. So like the opponents aren't as easy as before. With that said, we're also, you know, we have raised our level at the same time too. So I think, you know, some things that are different for me is that, you know, I'm older, you know, I think I have a little bit more leadership responsibilities, even if it's unofficially, and just how I carry myself with a lot of the younger girls that come. And I felt like last camp was more so like evaluating what the assignment was this time. And I think, you know, we you know, a new coach, some new players, new opponents. A lot of it is new, so it's like we're still learning our identity and like where we're at and all of that. But it was good to get 2 wins for sure. I mean, that was our job. That's how we start off, and we got to keep going in April.
Yeah, as you mentioned, April, the Cayman Islands and DR. Is the mode in the camp, you know, 2 wins and we're into the final round? Because a lot of fans are saying, looking at the goal difference right now, we're not at the top, but if we win 2 games, we're through to the next round.
Yeah, I honestly, yeah, there was like a lot, not stress, but just a lot of a little hoopla about like the goal differential and scoring and all that. But I just had a feeling like I don't even want it to come down to goal differential. Like I want to beat the DR. I want to be on top. And that's because I'm a competitor and I think we are worthy of that title. So yeah, I mean, whatever. I don't know how many goals we'd have to score with Cayman. I don't really care, to be honest. Like I want us to look good and I want us to win. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and finally, Chinny, you know, you last year, as you said, you were in Washington. You didn't play as much as you would have liked, but now being back in Europe, what does it feel like to be back in Scandinavia and playing in Europe generally?
It feels amazing. I think sometimes you just kind of like need to take a space away, and it shifts your perspective. It just kind of, I don't know, it just gives you a new look on things. And Sweden has been really good to me so far. I love my club. I love my staff. They're amazing, very smart women also, and I've actually been really impressed with the level here. I always knew. I mean, everyone says really good things about Sweden and the league here, but I think I'm going to really grow here, and that excites me. That makes me really happy because I love getting better. And I also feel like I can play the kind of football that I like to play because I know my coach, like she's very selective on who she brings in, so she did a lot of research on all of us individually. So if I'm still here, then that means, you know, she can appreciate what I can bring. So that makes me just more comfortable and confident here. And I can't wait for the season start end of the month.
Yeah. And then whenever you're on the field of play, your team normally wins 75% of games. So that means you have to play.
Okay. I will bring that stat to her.
Definitely. But Chinny, thank you for your time. I really, really appreciate it. All the best for you, for club football and internationally. It's a big year ahead. So, you know, all the best to you and may you continue put in the same performances you have been doing.
Thank you so much. And thanks for having me.
It was an absolute pleasure. You know, keep up the good